Okay. I got a message from someone that watches this channel that said, what happened to you? Did you change? What happened? You know. So this video is like, here's the camera. This video is like did I change or did the Democrat Party change? In this video, I hope to explain to everybody what I am, what my beliefs are. Modernism. That's my guiding foundational philosophy. Every human being has the hardware, which is the brain, and they have the software, which is the frontal lobe up here that processes and attempts to predict the future based on past events. And the frontal lobe operates on two primary inputs: previous experience, direct experience, learned experience, learned knowledge. Examples for we can watch. We as human beings can watch somebody else change a tire, and then we can figure out how to do it ourselves, and we can replicate that. You really cannot find animals that do that. Maybe crows, ravens, some birds. Some birds are highly, highly intelligent, but I'm not aware that chimpanzees or apes are capable of learning that way, even though we are classified as great apes. So I'm going to describe. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to take my time on this video. So if you've got a few minutes and you're not doing anything and you would like a fireside chat, which is all that I'm looking for. I've been setting fence posts all day and I've been in the hot sun, and now I'm just looking to relax and have a fireside chat. So hopefully you can put this on in the background. And these are just some of my thoughts. I'm not here to judge anyone or to call anyone evil in this particular video. All right. So postmodernism is incompatible with civic nationalism, and the reason why is civic nationalism requires empiricism in order to function. Now we're going to go over what all those words and terms mean, and you probably were intentionally misled and mistaught what these words mean because it makes you complacent. It makes you a good little worker that won't ever question the hierarchy that tells you to go to work. And this is not an anti-work video. The tradesmen, the people that go to work and actually work and build things, are the true backbone of America. This is not an anti-work sentiment that I'm talking about. So let's start off. I'm going to explain what these words mean. So civic nationalism is what the guiding moral philosophy, remember, if your software in your brain, what you've been programmed to do, what you have been programmed to do, plus your experience that you've had in life, which you then mesh and compare to your previous real life experience. And then you, like a deck of cards, you shuffle it together, and then you come up with this. Hopefully, if you're an insightful person, hopefully you come up with this guiding moral philosophy and basically this software that kind of guides your decisions. So civic nationalism was the guiding moral philosophy and software that guided my grandfather and his generation. I call him my pawpaw. He was in the Pacific under MacArthur fighting Japanese. He served in World War II. The reason why he served was because Pearl Harbor was attacked and he wanted to do his duty, and so he enlisted, and the rest is history. We won. So my papa's generation grew up on this thing called civic nationalism, which was the idea that, the federal state, Washington, D.C., and the American flag, and America, as a national identity, as a nation, was paramount and the most important thing. And that if economic hardship came or droughts of job opportunities, that pulling together as a nation and working together as a nation is the way that you overcome that. And that was the guiding moral philosophy and software. Civic nationalism. They were called the Great Generation. The Great Generation. They built America. They defended America when the world was at war. They were civic nationalists. Now, civic nationalists believe in a strong military. They believe in borders. They believe in national defense. And national identity is more important than national defense, because what is the identity of your country? So the Great Generation made it very clear. The identity of this country was supposed to be modern, progressive, innovative, technology-based, science-based, engineering-based. But tons of socialist countries have tried that. That's old hat. That's old news. Tons of countries have tried that. The way that the Great Generation supercharged that was then they were like, we're going to let the capitalists go wild and fund all of this stuff. We're going to let the banks go wild and fund all of this stuff. And we're going to tax that. Which, ultimately culminated in them electing, Ronald Reagan with the boomers and the Great Generation back when they were still alive and voting together. The Great Generation's dead now. You might find less than a dozen of them still alive. Maybe. I highly doubt it. And I think that's the problem. They were kind of our parents, and they kind of built this country, and they kind of kept everything running. They kept the lights on, and they kept everything functioning. They built Hoover Dam. They built Cape Canaveral. They went to the moon. They did all of this stuff. And the Great Generation created the foundation for all of that to flourish. I'm not saying that the Great Generation personally built the space shuttle, because I think they were a little old by that time and out of the workforce. I mean that they laid the foundation. The civic national identity of America, the foundation, we are America, and we are badass, and we are awesome, we are amazing, we're innovative, we're technology based, and we believe in the American dream, which is everybody can come here and make a good wage, healthy wage, a wage where you can flourish and prosper. And I believe Americans should have a good, prosperous wage. I believe that. That's a good civic nationalist belief. It helps your country for your people to not only have jobs, but to flourish, to be prosperous. Because they're going to take that money and they're going to put it back into your country. It's a good investment to invest in your own people. Imagine that. So I think we understand now the civic nationalism, what it basically means. It's like you believe in having a strong national identity, borders. You believe in being forward-thinking in working for your country. You need to be. It's the exact opposite of today, and we're going to get to that. Civic nationalism is what inspires a president to say, it's not what your country can do for you, it's what you can do for your country, right? JFK. He said it. It is not what you can get from the government. It's not what free lunches you can get, what welfare you can get, what jobs you can get. It's none of that. None of that. Because anything given to you has no value. Anything given to you can be taken away. It has no value. It's not what you can get out of a government or out of a union. It is, how are you going to serve it? Because you're going to get out of it what you put in. What you put into it is what you're going to get out. A nation, a country, is like a homestead, only bigger. It's like a farm, only bigger. It's like a corporation, only bigger. It's like all of these things, only bigger. In order for it to flourish, the people that are a part of it need to be on board with the flourishing. They need to be like, okay, yeah, we're going to build a bridge. We're going to build an airport. We're going to build these airplanes. I mean, the tycoons, the Howard Hughes, he was obsessed with building airplanes. The people have to be on board with, and they have to be excited, and they have to be challenged, and they have to be educated, they have to be motivated. And then you just put them to work, man. You can turn them free. You can build anything. You can go to the moon. America proved it. And our money's out of thin air. It's not backed by gold. It's out of thin air. And we went to the moon on thin air. The only thing we used was human labor and inspiration. It's true. So that's civic nationalism. That's how powerful it is. Civic nationalism is compatible with modernism. We'll get there. So now we're going to get to empiricism. What is empiricism? Because I said postmodernism versus civic nationalism. Postmodernism is incompatible because civic nationalism requires empiricism in order for it to function, in order for it to run. So what is empiricism? Empiricism is what engineers use. Empiricism is, I am going to observe something, then I'm going to document it, and then I'm going to do it again and again, and if it's the same over and over again, then that is what it is. Using empiricism, we were able to come up with tools of measurement. Isn't that amazing? That's really when things started to take off. Because once you have universal tools of measurement and tools of math that are universal, that anybody can use across languages, when math becomes, across languages, that's when things start to take off. Empiricism enabled the modern scientific method. Because if a study comes out that says dogs turn into unicorns when they die, but nobody is able to replicate that and show that in a lab, it's not true. So then empiricism says you kick out that knowledge that is anti-knowledge, is false knowledge. It's knowledge that's not real knowledge. So empiricism is empirically looking at data, observing, like electron microscope. Electron microscope would be empiricism. Going into a lab, doing an experiment, that's empiricism, buddy. That's physical science. My favorite science is empiricism. It's all just empirical. Economics used to be very much empirical based. All right, so I think we understand just kind of the concept of empiricism. It's what you know to be true is what you can observe. And if you can't observe it directly with your eye, you can make something like a telescope or a electron microscope or a rover that you launch and send to Mars. You can make a tool to observe for you. And so you can gather knowledge that way and data that way. That's empiricism, and that's the foundational philosophy of modern scientific method. And that is 100% compatible with civic nationalism. The reason why is because civic nationalism needs strong military, strong national defense, and they need to be up at the top tier of technology when competing in the world. When you're at the top tier of technology, you succeed. In order to be at the very top tier of technology, you have to have empiricism. You have to be able to kick out the bull crap and to have real science and real engineering in charge. Because it's not, oh God, we'll get to that. It's not what you want to build, it's what is physically possible and what you can build. So let's get to postmodernism, and then we're gonna tie this all together. So postmodernism was born basically in France when the first atomic bomb went off. Postmodernism is the antithesis to modernism. It is nihilism rebranded as functional societal contracts, the social contract. It's not a social contract, it's just nihilism. And it ultimately devolves societies into hedonistic narcissists that no longer know what is real. What's worse, they don't care what is real because they don't believe in real. And that's postmodernism explained. There's no such thing as real. Everything's just an opinion, man. That's postmodernism. The reason why the foundational, the fathers of philosophy that started postmodernism, the reason why they believe that this sort of nihilistic belief is okay is because, according to, and this is true, I just disagree with their conclusion. According to reality, we could all be fried tomorrow or whatever by like a solar flare or a rogue comet or a nuclear war. There could be a nuclear war and we all die, right? So postmodernism is like, why build society if society can just be snapped out of existence like that? And Hiroshima, right, is basically like a foundational moment, a catalyst in history to start off this postmodernist way of thinking. So they say, hey man, who cares, man? Let's just smoke grass and hang out by the coffee shop and just, so let's just go with the flow, man, and just chill because, man, and postmodernism gave rise to like the beatniks and some of the hippie movement. A lot of hippies turned out to be like hard workers in life. So they weren't really guided by postmodernism. They were morally guided by the anti-war sentiment. America was just tired of war. So postmodernism, nihilism, is death. It's death to empiricism. It's death to the modern scientific method. Because, for example, if I could absolutely prove that like this country and this group of people, not genetically, just straight up, are like 20 IQs lower than like everybody else on planet Earth. I'm not saying I can. I'm just saying hypothetically, if I could just prove that in science, that's not allowed. In postmodernism, that's not allowed. Even if it's a truth, it's not allowed. You can't talk about it. It's not allowed. How dare you go against the postmodernistic belief that every single human being is equal? That would be an example of postmodernistic belief, that every single human being is equal. Because this is obviously not true. We have the Special Olympics. Obviously, not every single human being on planet Earth is equal. You have these societal beliefs, these things that are advanced that are not grounded in reality. They're not grounded in empiricism. They're certainly not grounded in a civil nationalist duty or identity for your country. They're just grounded in this narcissistic need to feel like you are morally correct or ethical, when sometimes observing reality does not need any moral opinion or ethics or anything. We just observe reality, It's like saying the advance of the pine needle in North America, the pine beetle in North America, is racist, right? That would be like a postmodernist belief. But I could quantify that using postmodernist thought. Because you see, because of white colonialism from Europe into the North American territories, They built factories and railroads and industry, and they release CO2 and methane and pollution, and that helps the climate warm, and therefore it's racism that the pine beetles are advancing north. So again, I want to reiterate the using postmodernist thought, you can say anything is anything. You don't need empirical data to back it up, because you can just use emotional connections. Postmodernism is rot and decay of all society and the human mind. It truly is evil and bad, and horrible, and it truly will destroy the world. The world will be engulfed in nuclear fire. And I mean that. I mean, I'm not being hyperbolic or anything. Postmodernism will probably drag America into a nuclear confrontation with China. And China has already been kind of sort of saying that out loud. You know, those thoughts you're not supposed to have out loud, but you say out loud. China's been doing that recently. So which then brings us to modernism. Once we understand what modernism is, then I hope you, the viewer, will understand how I have never changed in my beliefs. I am, and forever will be, on the side of empirical, modern, progressive, science, technology, and engineering. I am and always will be a futurist, a person that is forward-thinking and always constantly obsessed with bleeding edge technology. And in order to be that way, I have to accept the modern scientific method, and I have to reject junk science, pseudoscience. I have to reject entire departments of science that are complete wastes of time and metaphysical trash. And just when I say metaphysical, I mean it's nothing. It's thin air. It's a spirit. It's a ghost. It's an opinion. It's a thought. It's nothing. There's no empirical data backing it up. There's nothing in reality that backs it up. And if you don't believe me, go and Google lobotomies. There was a time when lobotomies were 100% science, buddy. But it wasn't. It was an entire area of study and expertise that did not help, did not do anything, did not accomplish anything. It was nonsense. It was based on nonsense, like phrenology. And they eventually got rid of it. That's the cool part. Not the getting on Twitter and taking a hard line and saying, hey, I trust the science, I trust the science. The cool part's when the real science happens and the garbage, the nonsense, is kicked out and not allowed to be taught anymore because we've established it's garbage. Right? That's when you actually progress forward as a society, as a country, as a nation, as a people, as a species. You progress forward when you reject the nonsense, the superstition, and you accept the empirical data that says this is truth whether you like it or not. Which brings me to my favorite philosophy and view of viewing things. And also, this is great and wonderful inspiration for architecture and architects. Like, you look at Frank Lloyd Wright. Google Frank Lloyd Wright. He built modernist-inspired architecture. Anyway, modernism started when the Civil War ended. And modernism was the idea that, okay, so now we are this single, together, union, national workers' front, right? We've got this nation, we've got these factories, we've got this industry, we've taught our kids engineering, we've taught our kids how to do mechanical work and to run machines. So now what do we do with it? So modernism is the belief that truth is something that you find internally inside yourself through struggle, hard work, determination, grit, effort. Modernism is what inspires people to climb mountains. In that movie, James Tiberius Kirk in Star Trek was asked, why are you climbing a mountain? You can just, take some jet boots up there, just fly up there. And he's like, because it's here. Because the mountain is here. See, in modernism, the challenge, just the challenge, is the reward. Do you think the Apollo astronauts that are still alive today wish to be existing in 2021? Has-beens that were on the moon and are no longer on the moon? Or do you think they would rather go back to their prime when they were flying in space? It's certainly not because space is comfortable and space is where the home is and space is where the wife and the kids are. It's because space was a hardship that they overcame. It was hard work that they overcame. It was its own reward. Modernism is what produces results. Modernism builds a healthy society. Modernism helps inspire people to believe that just challenging oneself is enough meaning and purpose. And for those that still cannot find meaning or purpose, there's always religion. And that's the problem. The Democrats, the liberals that I can no longer associate with, are treating this new postmodernist political philosophy as a hedonist religion. And it's getting pretty bad. I mean, what was it? 27 people shot last night in Chicago, I think. I mean, in the areas in America, in the communities where they really swallow hook, line, and sinker, when they really swallow this whole postmodernist welfare state lie about being dependent on the government, they seem to be the worst off, not doing too well. So how did the Civic Nationalists, the Great Generation, deal with economic hardship? Well, they had things like victory gardens. They would come together and they would garden, and they would have community gardens, and they would start their own gardens. And it was called your civic duty. And the federal government would actually mail out seeds to the citizens and encourage them. Hey, you don't need to go to the grocery store. You're Americans. You can just grow your own food. That was the Civic Nationalist approach to hardship, was to work your way out. And that brings us back to modernism. Modernism is the belief that those hardships, those hard works, should be sought. You should look for them, and you should try to find them and try to accomplish them and to beat them and to defeat them, because that is when you're happy as a human being, is when you are overcoming hardship. And that will forever be my philosophy in life, and it is absolutely incompatible with the modern American liberal movement of welfare and entitlement and just the belief that all human beings deserve to exist. It's just not true. It's just not true. There are some really, really heinous, really terrible human beings out there, rapists, murderers, that are really, really horrible, really atrocious. There are people in drug gangs where they chainsaw people's heads off, and the videos, you can find them on Leaked Reality. You can watch them on the internet. There are some really heinous, horrible people out there that do really atrocious, horrible things. Not every human being is equal. Not every human being has value or merit. Not every human being is a cog in the machine of society that helps society, that moves society forward, that helps us create a more perfect union. It's just not true, and it'll never be true. There are some human beings that are just kind of broken and irredeemable. They're examples of that. There was this lady that like got her law degree recently. I was reading about this in the headlines just on social media. This lady got her law degree to fight for this killer that like killed her mom or something. Killed somebody that she knew. And she fought to get him out, like on parole or whatever, to her custody. And she bragged about how they had like a wonderful relationship and they had patched things up. And then he killed her. She did all that work to get him out just to be murdered by an irredeemable human. Some people were broken. They're broken inside. Did you know about 1/3 of humanity does not have an inner voice, an inner monologue inside their head? Did you know that? That's a scientific fact. That's true. About 1/3 of humanity on planet Earth does not have the ability to have a Jiminy Cricket in their head thinking about whether something is ethically or morally right. So just remember that. The next time liberals are like, we are on the right side of history, we're moral, we're ethical, they are fighting for people that may not even have the ability to express ethics or morality or to contemplate the meaning of those. Anyway, I gotta go. Battery's running low. And I'm tired. I've been setting fence posts all day. A good, honest day's work is its own reward, and it brings you a good night's sleep. And there's an entire generation, a couple of generations in America that do not know that, and they've been taught the opposite. They've been taught instant gratification, instant food, instant reward, and they're just doing this on apps. Ching, 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 like a slot machine, lighting up their dopamine. It's making them worse. It's this feed-forward loop, like a perpetual motor, like a diesel motor, just like running out of control and just blowing off its top. Like America is about to balkanize. There's going to be a civil war. There's going to be nuclear war with China. Everything's about to get real bad. Real bad. And I didn't do it. And my beliefs didn't do it. And me sitting here in the South and just setting fence posts and just having beliefs and having thoughts on YouTube didn't do it. You guys did it. All of society did it. And it's all about to collapse, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a doomsday prepper or whatever. But these are my opinions. These are my thoughts. This is just what I think. It's my little fireside chat for the night. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I don't care if you were offended, because offense is taken, not given. I'm not trying to offend anybody. So if you're offended, that's something that you chose to do. It's not something that I chose to do. So, I don't care if anybody's offended by this video, but I didn't try to offend anybody. I'm just laying out what I believe to be true. And I will always believe this. And I would like to believe that Walt Disney agreed with me. Henry Ford agreed with me. Nikola Tesla, right, which the liberal nerds like to worship, why did he come to America? He sought a fortune. It's true story. He sought a fortune. Anyway, good night, guys, or good evening. As long as it lasts. Man, this economic collapse that's coming is probably going to be really bad. There are going to be people, we're going to be in like full American like balkanization and civil war, and states are going to be like seceding from the Union, and governors are going to be like sending, militias and National Guards are going to be fighting, and everybody like on TV and stuff are just going to be like, this is fine. These are just localized, mostly peaceful events. These are just protesters. Like, I can see it coming, man. I can see it coming. I just don't see America going forward is going to become more unified, right? It's not possible. And I just explained why. Postmodernism is incompatible with modernism. The two cannot share the same space. They cannot be on the same table. They cannot be on the same playing field. They are incompatible. One must destroy the other. There's no way they can coexist. One must destroy the other completely and totally. So if postmodernism wins, there goes your space tech. There goes Silicon Valley and computers and all that. You're going to go back to Stone Age with postmodernism because empirical truths cannot exist. Right? But if modernism wins, then we move forward. But, and that it's a completely different discussion, and I'll make another video, but everything that I just said is kind of completely irrelevant to the communism versus, America type situation that's going on right now. But I will tell you this, communism, China, is using this whole postmodernism, using the flame of postmodernism and inflaming it in our youth and sowing division in our youth and pushing divisive teachings in our schools and anti-American rhetoric in our schools. And they're using this postmodernism to try to take down America. And there's nothing I can do to stop it. There's nothing you can do to stop it. Restoring civic nationalism is going to have to be like a local community-based thing. It's not going to happen nationwide. The idea that the good old boys are going to come back and just fix everything, that ain't going to happen. America going forward is going to become more divisive, more divided, more vitriolic. And now you know why. It's because modernism and postmodernism are currently clashing. And they're going to continue to clash until somebody wins, totally and completely. And that could come in the form of China taking over the world. That could come in the form of, full American Civil War where America then becomes something else. That could come in the form of, European... I'm not allowed to say it. I could get banned just for saying it. But something has to give. We all know that the society that we're in right now cannot perpetually exist, that it's currently headed for something. So, those are my beliefs. I've never changed. Never, ever, ever changed. I'm a futurist, believes in empirical science, technology, engineering. I believe in the scientific method and what we know to be true, what we know to be reality. Use this, the frontal lobe. Use that inner voice that you have. Use that contemplation and inner monologue. Use it, because there's about 1/3 of humans on the planet that don't have that, don't have the ability, and they will kill you for your shoes. Just because they like your shoes and they want them, they'll kill you, and they'll never have a thought about it. And it'll never bother them that they killed you. And just be careful with your political beliefs, because you don't want to invite the lion to dinner, because you could easily become dinner. And, my political beliefs is to keep my family away from lions. Keep them safe. That's my political beliefs right now. I want to have grandkids one day. Boy, I'm scared. I'm scared about the America they're going to see and they're going to grow up in, but hopefully we'll go through this hardship and I'll take the brunt of it, and they'll get to enjoy their childhood and just kind of run free and just be kids. And then, I don't know, man. I just hope it don't get... I mean, people are already dying in the streets, but nobody cares. Nobody's talking about it. I mean, they just set fire to a police station like a few days ago. Nobody cares. Nobody's talking about it. And that's how it is. That's how these civil wars start, is that these localized, violent, extreme events happen, but people they keep just going about their day and acting like it's not happening. And so then these violent events become normalized and regular, and then eventually an opposition shows up to these events to enforce opposition, and then boom, you got civil war. And then the government takes a side, and then everything gets messy. You'll have government employees, high up government employees, they're just like, I refuse to do my job because of my beliefs, and I'm pretty sure we've kind of already hit some of those levels. So we're kind of sort of already in a civil war, right? That's what it feels like to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about everything. It's just my beliefs. Anyway, I hope this kind of explains a few things about how if you watch my videos in my channel, it seems like I changed. So I went from like Democrat to conservative. But yeah, now that I'm a father and I have kids, yeah, I would like to conserve a nice way of life in America. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that C word. There's nothing wrong with conserving a way of life. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So anyway, ciao, good night. My battery's running low.